kinds of spiritual protection does the modern woman need to be successful? The Women's Empowerment Program presents Inspire, Innovate, Ignite, Conversations that Count. Get inspired by expert panelists who share innovative self-empowerment tips that will enrich your life. Each intimate group of panelists has been hand-chosen for specific topics to ignite deep conversation amongst peers and guests who join live. Showing up live is the very best way to not only learn from these experts, but to engage in discussions and get your very own questions. This series will help you understand topics at deeper levels, become empowered to integrate tips and discussion elements into your day-to-day life. Our topic today is, I need to scroll down, you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. We are having technical glitches all over the place today, and it has a lot to do with because we are talking about energy and spirit and all those things in between. So bear with me just one moment as my computer comes back to life. Okay, what kinds of spiritual protection does the modern woman need to be successful? So success needs more than a plan. It needs more than luck. Does it need prayer, a mantra, meditation? Successful? Does it need understanding of the energetic influences that impact the outcome of your best plans? Our diverse panel of spiritual experts will be exploring new and old ideas about energetic protection needed to protect your innermost self and spiritual sensitivity to reach success in uncertain times. Before we get started, I'd love to introduce our panelists. Tina Hull, will you give a wave to our watchers? Tina is a restorative health guide, mindset coach, and Akashic records consultant. She helps high-achieving women release and heal emotional wounds without having to relive them, so that they can step into their empowered archetype, so they can be happy, healthy, and thrive. She does this using a signature method called Tina is from Toronto originally, and she has relocated to the Caribbean island of Nevis with her family about 17 years ago. She's been in the wellness field for 30 years. Thank you, Tina. We have Linda Grundy Barrett. Forgive me for that, Linda. Please give a wave to our watchers. Linda Beniahe is the founder of the Toronto Hypno Hub, business owner of Soul Therapy and Gaming Tarot, helping people to live more aligned, richer lives, offering healing programs that allow the release of past trauma, change unwanted habits, put you back in the driver's seat. Linda is passionate about helping people understand that we can be free from prison in our minds. Who doesn't want that? By not allowing external circumstances to control our lives, we are given power and freedom to choose the life we desire. Linda is also the host of Soul Tarot and Healing Hypnosis Tribe. Laura Carter is a clinical Ayurvedic specialist, a yoga and meditation teacher, and an Ayurvedic plant-based chef. Applying Ayurveda's pro-health, not anti-disease approach, Laura guides women in how to embrace what makes them physically, emotionally, and spiritually to create an optimal wellness lifestyle that is personalized and easy. And finally, we have, where are you? I cannot see. Oh no. Just 1 second. There she is, Ruth Boydell. Hello, Ruth. Ruth joined us as she's stepping in to fill a space that had been one of our panelists couldn't make it, and Ruth stepped up, said, "Here I am," and here she is. Tell us a little bit about herself.
Thank you, Sue. I'm a host of the Afterlife Tribe at our Sacred You .love, and I'm a pastoral care practitioner and an end-of-life doula. So my background is really asking people questions more than prescribing any kind of modality. And I probably use a lot of those energetic protections in my own work as I move from bed to bed or visit different people in the community.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of here as a questioner and somebody that's interested in who we are in consciousness and spirit, and I probably use a lot of the breathing, connecting, singing, meditation, visualization, and so on in my own life as a protection and a connection.
I think you're going to be bringing a beautiful layer of wisdom and experience that joins with our other three experts tonight. So, Michael Beckwith teaches that the vision we set for our lives begins a sacred process, unfolds, unlocks everything that's unique, mighty, magnificent inside of each of us. And it is our hope that this conversation tonight will perhaps do that for some of our watchers and perhaps even for our panelists. Something new will show up. The reason I chose this particular topic for this panel is that I found that many of my clients, I'm an empath trainer, a life coach, an empath life coach working with highly sensitive people. And I found that many of my successful female clients come to our sessions in the first place because they feel haunted by spirits. And they labeled many different labels, such as a little bit schizophrenic, a little bit OCD, a little bit ADHD, a little bit highly anxious, stress-related conditions. And once we begin the conversation, what we discovered was that they were not being haunted by outside spirits or dark forces or otherworldly energies. What they were being haunted by was their own self-beliefs in some cases that had turned into a force that they were working with, that was working against them instead of for them. Other times, being highly sensitive, they were picking up energies from other people and misinterpreting those. Those were live energies of real people with real issues, real feelings, and misinterpreting those as being outside dark forces. Once we were able to identify that, we were able to understand that they needed spiritual protection, but not from dark forces so much as the people around them and from themselves. And that's where their journeys begin. So that's what we're actually hoping to bring into the conversation tonight. How do we identify what we need protection from, and how do we get that protection? That's the basis of what we're going to be talking about. So before we start, I'm just going to introduce a couple of concepts, and we're going to go straight to our experts and start the conversation. Everybody watching, I'd like you to think about the words spiritual influence. Spiritual influence. How do we feel spiritual? The spiritual influences in our lives affect us. And now change that word spiritual to energetic influence. Energetic influence, which could come from the universe, which could come from other people, which could come from ourselves, which could come from other sources beyond this world, afterlife possibilities, but not in a scary way, in a communicative way. So energetic influence. Second phrase is spiritual intervention. Spiritual intervention. And now change that over to energetic intervention. And finally, spiritual shape shifting becomes energetic shape shifting. So I've given a lot of concepts here, and let's take this to our experts right now. So experts, whoever would like to start, just unmute yourself and tell us what you think. In your experience, what is spiritual protection? What does it look like in business? What does it look like personally? Why do we need it? How do we get it? And what do we need to keep it? So it's a big lot of information. Your experience. What is spiritual protection?
Hi, Sue. Hi, guys. Thank you so much, everybody. What a fantastic opportunity to get to chat about this subject today. All of us who work in energy work and healing of other people in particular, or dealing with people who are struggling in any way, all understand the impact that the interaction energetically can have on yourself. And then trying to have the additional but managing a business as well energetically on yourself can be a struggle at times. Managing the energies in the universe, in the world, all the things that are going on as well. So we've got all of these different energies, and I really love, Sue, your description of switching out the spiritual to energetic, because that's what I really resonate with really well, and I understand. I think most people understand now with Reiki work and energy work that we're always constantly dealing with that. So your question was, how do we protect ourselves spiritually, in business to be successful? I believe that first of all, we have to understand our own connection to our energy work. We need to be retrospective. We need to have a look at our journey and unpack it from a point of view that, oh, wow, we went through that situation and we had this experience in our life, and understand that we have been all of this time, picking up energies from other people, understanding how we dealt with that at the time, how we moved forward, looking at our successes over our course of our journey. What were we doing then that was successful for us? Because I believe that can be different and, for every individual on their journey.
Okay, thank you. How do you think people can look at their experience slightly differently, Linda? Just carry on with yours, just a tiny bit further.
Yes, how can you look at your experiences differently? I think it's we are all on a journey of self-discovery, so we are all journeying inward, aren't we, to really understand what that connection is. And then the more we understand about that, the more we can use whatever we need to do to be protected and living the life that we should be living, aligned with our path. So I think it's just learning, spending time with people who have already done the work, and interacting with other people in the community that have other experiences. All that sort of thing helps us to understand how we can be in our highest vibration, I guess.
So talk about it. Talk about it with other people.
Yeah, talk about it with other people. Definitely, that's important. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. That was a very valuable share. Who would like to go next? Tina. The question is, in your experience, what is spiritual protection? What does it look like in business? Why do we need it? How do we get it? And what do you do?
So I come from an energetic perspective, but also empathic perspective. So I think it's really important. Again, a lot of people interchange spiritual with the energies, God, source, the universe. It's kind of all combining these days. So I think the success comes with alignment within ourselves, loving ourselves first, making that connection to our deeper selves, to our highest selves, being intuitive and allowing the intuition to come to and through us. Many of us lack the intuition and who we really are, and that connection to ourselves, our inner being. And when that happens, then there's a lot of discord and disharmony. And so that can show up as illnesses and diseases, and or what you were explaining before, your OCDs and all these kinds of things. I think that a lot of these conditions these days are really misunderstood. a lot of them are stress related, and a lot of them are because we are taking on other people's energies. And many of us don't understand any of this. They're unfamiliar with it. I've been in many empath groups. They are scrambling to try to figure out how to manage their day-to-day life. And they think of being an empath as a curse, not a gift. And so my mission has been to shift that conversation so that they can see that it's a gift, not a curse, if they know how to protect themselves.
So part of what you're saying is that for a woman in business or in life in general, that if she allows her intuition to speak a little bit more freely, doesn't block it, she will have a better chance of connecting on that spiritual side that actually renamed energetic side, so that she can take better control of her life, especially when she knows how, because she's talked to the experts who show her how. Yeah,
right. And so we're always being divinely guided, and when we're connected to our higher selves, which is within us, then we're always being led down a path of love, down a path of success, and around the least resistance. So
you have just merged. You've just merged the spiritual with the energetic.
Right.
I'd love to thank you so much for that connection. I'd love to hear from somebody else now. Who would like to speak next? Laura.
Yeah, wow, we're starting really strong. I love it. Thank you very much. You know, I want to say something to what Tina just said, simply because I have heard many times from my clients, Laure, I am a good person, so why does this bad thing happen to me? So I believe, that's my personal belief, that we are always spiritually protected, because spirit is the cause of all things. It's a ground of being, basically. However, I believe, on the other end, that one of the reasons we may find challenges is because we were taught that if we are a good person, or if we do everything right, then life should be successful. And we forget, as Linda so appropriately said, we forget that we are here to grow, to evolve. And if we really pay attention, I think that most of us as humans are only willing to grow, to change, when we're being challenged. You know, if everything was perfect, just be really comfortable right here, you know. So I wanted to just add this, because I hear so many times my clients being uncomfortable, or being having this sense of anxiety and sadness, thinking that life is a curse, when it's not. Ultimately, that's why I said I do believe that spiritual protection is, period. However, tapping into it, remembering it, that's where the work comes from.
Okay. That is a perfect additional piece to this. And I think that Ruth now has something to add to this. Please unmute, Ruth.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Laura. I would like to say that I agree entirely, because I was tapped on the head and told to wake up to myself. I had a transient global amnesia 5 years ago, where I was, after a stress event, I actually was in my full dementia, according to my husband. Who am I and why am I here? And I feel I was out of my mind for about 4 hours, and I believe I was taken somewhere to be reminded of myself as a mortal being, and to awaken to some deeper aspect of myself as a spiritual being. And so I really agree about that idea. Protection is, we are protected by our higher selves, our energetic selves. There's just that experience of I don't know, but just being kind of forcefully reminded that we are more than our physical bodies and more than those kind of material things. And I'd also just like to say, I agree that idea about that intuitive self, trust your gut, you know, is a huge part of our growth experience, is to trust ourselves in that journey, that inner journey. Yeah. And thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to add that into the story.
I think that's an important part of the story, because if we stick strictly with the science of how the brain works, how energy fields work around people, and how energies communicate with each other frequentially, scientifically, we lose a really important part of being human, which is that we are multidimensional beings that do connect on multiple levels. And hopefully at some point get to integrate the levels so that they all work for us, and we aren't overloaded in any one direction. So this brings us to our next question. Now, I've gotten a message that my mic seems specific, and I don't know how to fix that. I don't know what to do about it. Hopefully that won't be the case on the recording. We're going to find out. We're just going to carry on and hope that the universe smooths out the frequencies of my mic. Okay, the next question that I have is, most success experts say that to be successful, we are talking about women's success using spiritual tools, spiritual protection, spiritual guidance, and each of you are very successful women in your own right. So my question is, did you plan for success, or did it find you and draw you along? Did you anticipate needing energetic protection in anything that you do? Were there times when you felt like the universe was against fate or energetic interference? So, Ruth, it sounds like you'd be the person to start this particular part of the conversation. Would you like to start us off with this?
Thank you. Yes, so that journey into who I am in consciousness really propelled me into the land of end-of-life doula and also pastoral care, spiritual care in the hospital and hospice environment. Mm-hmm. And I went in really curious because I go in as a non-religious practitioner. I come kind of with an unchurched background, and so I have been going in as a curious person, but I was aware that I was in a very public space, and there are lots that I really experienced lots of energies in that space, and so I really had to come home and literally cleanse, showering and magnesium baths and so on, and grounding myself after that experience. So that was a really important part of being not drawn down into just yucky kind of stuff that was a bit sticky. Yep.
And I hear you saying that you would shower it off, your process once you got home, but did you do anything specific before this visit?
So in my practice, before going into the room with someone, really I did quite a bit of breathing and meditation. Take the time between clients to to just center myself and ground myself. One of the practices that I use in the hospital, but particularly when you've got to see a lot of clients or patients at one time in one day, I actually sing, and I sing threshold songs, which are, I guess, a kind of like a kirtan, like a meditative lullaby, but they're healing songs. So they're just an energetic shift, I suppose, helping me breathe, but they provide a release and probably a focus for the client for their breathing and hearing me. So sometimes I would just sing for myself. Sometimes I would sing loudly in the corridor. Sometimes I'd just sing in the chapel, and sometimes by the bedside I would sing for someone very gentle kind of songs. And yeah, so that was powerful.
Well, whether you recognize it, and I'm sure you recognize it, the vibration of the songs you chose to sing were the bridges that they need to travel in order to make their transition. Whenever that transition happened, you began to build, you wove that bridge for them using your voice and using the key at that moment. What a beautiful thing to do. Beautiful practice.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that other people can find their voice if that's their way of connecting to soul. Using their voice in song in some way, their own lives, in their own business, to smooth their way. Thank you. That was a beautiful conversation. Thank you. Who would like to go next with this question? Laura.
It's like we all want to go next, but we want to be, mindful of everything else. We all have to say something. Maybe you should just call our name, because I know we all have to say a lot about this. To answer the question, the first thing you mentioned was about success. And so I think the first step would be for each individual to identify or quantify what success is to them. For me, particularly, both personally and business-wise, success is remaining grounded. That's how I define my success. So in my journey, I started meditating 40 years ago, and I've been very lucky to grow up in a household where both my mother and her husband, who became my dad, my stepdad, were spiritual seekers. So I grew in there, and then about 13 years old, I took on meditation. And I say this because what I realized is that through life, what I notice is that meditation, depending on where we are in our life or where I was in my life, I needed different types of meditation to support me and keep me grounded, keep me balanced. And this is actually one of the things that I teach to my clients. It's really to identify what type of meditation or meditative practice fits them best, because we all have different tendencies, and you're not going to be able to get someone who struggles with anxiety to sit down eyes closed for 5 minutes. It's never going to happen, until they're better able to manage their anxiety. But they need meditation. So I encourage everyone to really find the type that is actually the solution, not the type that perpetuates the problem. So let's say, for example, I have noticed that someone who has a tendency to have a lot of thoughts in the mind, always thinking about something, and then they're going to use a type of meditation that gets their mind going from one place to the next and from one place to the next really quickly. That is not necessarily the solution ultimately to the what they're trying to do. And what I have found is that the main tool that I've discovered in my 40s actually was to use a type of meditation that allowed me to become more of a witness to my own thoughts, as opposed to being judging my thoughts, and which is very different from self-awareness. A lot of people will tell you, I'm very self-aware, and yet they still act in a way that is not congruent with what they deeply desire. So witnessing is a technique that I have found enables us to be aware, but also to pause long enough to see that we have a choice in what we're doing next. I love what Ruth said about chanting or singing. She called it singing. I really love this, the sound of the voice, the primordial sound, which becomes a song, and with words, it's so powerful. I mean, everyone will talk to the power of words and mantras and so on and so forth. So I actually do chant as well, more specific mantras, and I do chant as well. Yeah.
So we have chanting, we have singing, we have meditation, and we have witnessing. These are all tools that a woman or a man looking for success in their life in some way can use to take them further along that path. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Tina, I'm going to call on you next.
Yeah, so my experience has been interesting in working with some empaths, because what I have found is that not all of us are self-aware, that even know what an empath is, know that there are empaths. And I remember this one client who came into my clinic, and she'd been diagnosed with very many different kinds of conditions, but they never found her to be positive. So they would test for fibromyalgia. They do 5 and 6 different tests. The last test would be negative. They tested for chronic fatigue, same experience. And I asked her if she has a lot of interaction with people. And what we realized is that because of the nature of her job, she was taking on other people's pain. And that's why she was experiencing all these things. So we did a lot of clearing and cleansing, and I taught her how to protect her energy by creating a shape around her physical body and setting the intention that only love and light comes in and love and light goes out, so that she gets into the habit of protecting her energy. There's so many people out there that don't know how to do that, and they're not grounded enough. And so within 2 sessions, she was feeling more like herself than she had in years. And she went out into the world now doing what she was doing without feeling like she was going to take on other people's stuff. And so we can take on emotional pain, we can take on physical pain, we can take on world pain. There's lots of different kinds of empaths, and we have to be aware of that as well. So just because I take on emotion doesn't mean that you're going to. You might take on physical pain, and you can take out, you could be 5 different types of empath and not necessarily another 5. So it's important for us to realize that it is our job to protect ourselves. And yes, we can have spiritual protection, but also there's a point where when we're not at that point, we've got to actually do it for ourselves to get into the habit of it, raise our vibration. And then once we're at that high vibration, that's a spiritual protection.
So this is what I was talking about at the very beginning, where we talked about working with, instead of using the word spiritual intervention, in your case, in your profession, working with the people that you work with, the kinds of people you work with, we changed the wording from spiritual intervention or spiritual shape shifting to energetic intervention and energetic shape shifting. So
Yes.
your tool is scientific piece of working with the energetic shielding around the body. That's
Yes.
that's an actual process that has tools that you can teach. Okay, thank you. We've got one more piece in our tool belt. Linda, you are my next person.
Thank you, Sue. So I was a person who worked in a science-based industry for many years. I was in dentistry. And so as an empath, and particularly working with children, I was extracting children's teeth. You can imagine that you have to find a way to separate yourself from what's happening, the pain, that's happening, in the situation around you all day, every day. So without really yet having embarked on that inward journey, because science meant proof and all that sort of thing, that was a long journey. In that profession, I developed my own way of protecting my energy, and it was in the form of my uniform. So that was a signal to me when the white coat went on. That was my barrier from what was happening with what I was doing with my dental work. And then the white coat would come off, and then that was an energetic disconnect for me, so that I wasn't taking home and carrying all of the pain of, because it's, it's a situation where people do experience pain and trauma and that sort of thing. So without knowing it, I started to develop my own spiritual, energetic way of managing that. And then as I moved through my own personal life, as an empath, I thought, oh, something's wrong with this person. Instead of trying to help them heal, I just married them. And I did that a few times. So I developed my own. I was attracted to a person with, I won't mention names, one ear, but another person had, well, there's a list. It goes on and on. So I thought that I was there for a different reason. And it was just learning, what that was all about as well. It was all part of the journey. And then I understood eventually what did it for me was I no longer did dentistry. I had a physical injury. So I started another journey. The hypnotherapy really helped me. So I wanted to do that for other people. And I learned that if people, if their story does not match their life, you either have to change your story or change your life. And that's where the disconnect was. And, all of the stuff that comes with when we unpack that. But tarot was the thing that taught me ritual and taught me protection and energetic protection. So every time I would drop into my intuition, I'd have my own ritual that came with energetic permission and protection, connection with spirit, connection with whatever energetic source. And then at the end of the reading, I always have another ritual which disconnects. So that has always been my, well, it is now my current way of protecting myself energetically. So the other thing, just with the sound too, I really love the connection with sound and what that does with us. With my hypno sessions, I use different levels of binaural beats as well, because that's a the whole experience of the healing through that as well. So I try and incorporate all three things. I incorporate tarot and hypnotherapy because of the energetic connection that comes through, and it helps you really understand what sort of healing that the client is in need of. So that's my experience with connecting and ritual.
Fabulous. I love that you said that early on in your career, when you were working as a dentist, that you put on the white coat, and that signified your break between being you personally and being that particular person delivering that particular service. And that in some way it empowered you, but it also protected you in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And that you moved that over to the spiritual practice that you now do, where you open your sessions with a process or a practice, and you close your sessions similarly.
Yeah.
So it's really important, and I do that. I do the same thing when I'm working with clients. I ask permission to start. I ask permission, and I work with empaths. I work with highly sensitive people. I work with the scientific part of it, the brain studies, and working with the shielding and all that. But I also work with the spiritual side. I've somehow married. When we're working with the side, I make sure that my clients know that not only do I have to ask permission to work with that energetic layer, work with source, they do as well. And that when we're finished with our part of the practice, we have to say thank you for having been allowed the honor of working with source and with our guides and with their guides, because it's part of the communication that we build. So I'm going to ask you to answer start with the next question, if that's okay. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ask
Hold
me?
on one sec.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to ask you to stay on. So I know that you have protection that you do use. When you're working with a client, do you ever feel the need to protect yourself from your client's energy?
Do I ever feel the need to protect
An
myself?
additional need to protect yourself a little more from their energetic demands?
I think it's more if I'm seeing multiple clients throughout the day and I'm letting the grounding practices slip a little bit. So it sometimes can be very easy to be in the moment, and then that sort of feeling that you get when you're seeing people make progress and helping them, and then you sort of, it's not about you, it's just about the client or the person there that's you're holding space for. And then when you're sort of busy throughout the day, it can be, that's when I think I find that I may neglect the grounding, and sometimes time constraints will force that issue. So I wouldn't ever say energetically any one person's issues are more taxing than others, because to every single person, their problem or their issue is their big issue. Energetically, they're still out of balance. Energetically, they're still, feeling some kind of way, or, sadness or whatever it is, grief, or, all the different, syndromes and things that they could be going on in their mind. It doesn't change for me energetically, but it's just more stacks. I find that the energetic stuff can stack, the same as the good practices that we do energetically stack. So that's another important point, I suppose, too, with our tools in our tool belt, is to make sure that we're stacking the good energetic experiences, memories, rituals, to make sure that we have a lot in stored there, and really improving the value that we get from them.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you a rather personal question, and you don't have to answer it if you choose not to.
Okay.
Is there any part of your life that you feel underprotected?
Underprotected. I think it's while I do the things that I'm supposed to do, that I know that I need to do, no. The only time I ever feel more vulnerable is if I'm drinking wine or something like that, when I'm not really focused in on the energetic stuff, I guess, if I'm being honest. That's really, yeah.
I think it's really important for our viewers to hear that even though we are expert at what we do, we are still human beings, and we do have our vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The work never stops, really. I have a coach. I am a coach. I have a coach. I'm always looking for advice and mentoring, and successful people in what we do. How do they manage things? And I've heard some really amazing things from everybody today, just reminders of, you know, the things that we need to take care of about ourselves. So yes, the work never stops. Doesn't matter if you're helping other people, that's for sure.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was a very valuable share.
Thank you.
Ruth, I'm going to ask you to go next because I have a feeling that you are constantly kind of in that line of fire for clients' energetic demands. In your work with your clients, do you ever feel the need to protect yourself a little more at any
Yes,
time?
definitely. Yes, that I feel that because I'm not, I haven't got a particular energy practice, that may be something useful for me to actually put a bit more attention on my own personal protections. But I am aware that some clients who, you know, who just want to live, you know, and you can really understand that they just want to live, and they kind of you know, are in a lot of fear, and there's high demands in that area, I think, and some of my work is to help them kind of peel back to their vulnerable selves, and that's constant work for me to peel back to my own vulnerable self. And I like what Linda says about it's constant work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's such an important piece for our viewers to understand, is that this spiritual protection, or this energetic protection, energetic shape-shifting, energetic intervention, energetic protection is constant. It isn't something that's a one and done, that we're always in it. And you've explained that so well. Is there any part of your life that is not part of your business life where you feel underprotected? And again, you don't have to answer that if you prefer not to.
Well, I think it is just recognizing. I find my own protections are needed when I feel challenged by other professionals. I suppose that's an area, you know, when I sit in, you know, perhaps jealousy or, you know, different work energies. There's kind of, when I come across people who somehow push my buttons, I know they are me. I know that's an aspect of me, but I can still really work on, you know, that some colleagues or some, you know, other people that I think, oh, I know better, you know, I just may not. So I do need to work on that, of just understanding and accepting some other ways of being and holding the space for myself to know I'm enough, however that kind of manifests, and to appreciate that other people bring other things into our creative mix. Yeah.
Absolutely, they do. Thank you. This is such an important thing for people to hear, is that we are all vulnerable in our own ways. And it's not, it doesn't lessen us to share our vulnerabilities in a safe place. So thank you so much for sharing that. Tina, I'm going to ask you to go next, and then we're going to close this question with Laura. Okay, so Tina, could you join us now, please?
What I interpret your question to mean is there's energetic vampires, people who are going to drain you, who are going to suck you dry of your energies. So those people aren't doing it on purpose. They are not conscious of the fact that they're doing it to you. And it's mostly because we're not protecting our own energies that we're actually experiencing and feeling it. So if I'm tired and I'm with a client, I can pull in their pain. And as soon as I pull in their pain, I know I've got to intentionally set that boundary again. So that's where I have learned that it is a constant practice, most of the time I'm grounded enough and centered enough. I don't need to do it on a conscious level. It's just automatic. When you start the practice, it has to be conscious. And so it has to be practiced every day, all day, especially when you're interacting with other people. So, and it's okay. And then once you get to that point where you don't need it anymore, you'll know. And you can learn from that experience.
So you're suggesting to anybody who's watching that no matter what kind of business they are in, what kind of service they provide or product, that to be aware of when other people's energetic needs are really demanding and, like you said, sucking you dry, and to put up that, to remind yourself that you don't need to let them. There are processes, but just reminding yourself that you do not need to let them. It's not yours. And the question you can ask yourself, and something that I teach my clients to do, is you ask, is this mine? And you ask your heart and your body. You don't ask your brain. Your brain's always going to tell you the story that it is yours because you're feeling it. But truthfully, if it's not something that's common and normal for you, ask of your heart, is this mine? And your body's going to come back with a very strong no, almost immediately. At which point you say, okay, and now we're just going to send that back with a gentle message that it is undeliverable and a few other things. Okay, yeah. So thank you. Brilliant, brilliant, something people really need to hear. Tina, is there any part of your life, again, you don't have to answer, where you feel underprotected? And it doesn't have to be in business.
No. Yes, it used to be. And I've had to really work on it in my marriage. And my ex is a narcissist. So I had to work extremely hard on raising my boundaries and my standards and working on my who I am being in the moment and not being affected by my outside circumstances. So I had to stay within myself, stay in my power, stay connected to my God, source, and higher power, so that I was true to who I am and not allowing him to influence and alter who I was being. So that was me, and thankfully no longer is me.
What a wonderful message to send to people who may be in a similar situation to what you were in, that it is possible to no longer be in that situation at some future time. Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, Tina, for adding that piece. Laura, please join us. In your work with your clients, do you ever feel the need to protect yourself from their energetic demands?
So before I answer this question, I just want to say how I'm fascinated with by what each of the other three panelists do. You know, this is something I think I've been doing for a very long time, and I'm still, wow. I don't, you know, being a transition doula, I don't think I would ever have what it takes to do this. I am in awe. Working with empath and identifying what is coming from others and what is coming from self is such profound work. And you know what Linda says and does, it's pretty amazing. I smiled when you talked about the coat, because I lived for so long in Paris. So whenever I came home, I would get rid of the clothes I wore in the metro because it's so dirty. But then I continued to do this. And I think I don't even know that I was continuing to do this because it's such a really good tool to actually do, whether you take the dirty metro or not. To when, as soon as you come home, just like I take my shoes off, to also get rid of the clothes. Really, really good. I love this, and I'm definitely going to share this. So I needed to say this because I'm just like, wow. The thing that I want to say to answer your question is, I don't feel that I need to protect myself. And you know, we all come from such different background. I understand that in this conversation, we are using spiritual and energetic interchangeably. From my tradition, it is not interchangeable. Spiritual and energetic means points to two very different happenings, so to speak. So having said that, that's why I'm going to just strictly use the word energetic in this conversation, not spiritual. So I don't feel that I need to protect myself, because what I feel, and I'm sure all of you do, everyone in the panelists, whether you formulated it or not, because we are called to do the work that we're doing, we kind of channel things when we work with clients. You know, it's not our mind and mortal self that is in control when we're working with clients. However, after a session, I do feel the need to drink a lot of water. I do feel the need to go outside on my balcony and just lay back and watch the top of the trees and listen to the birds. I do need to feel, you know, to replenish energetically, to replenish, do some breathing techniques to replenish the prana, or vital force, my energy. Because yeah, I mean, we are all very vulnerable to the energies in the world. I think it's totally normal that happens. And then your second question is, do I ever feel underprotected? And you know, each time you said the word underprotected, I was like, I winced, because again, I don't feel underprotected. But I love something, I think that it's Tina who said it, you know, being vulnerable. And so being vulnerable from my perspective doesn't necessarily mean that I am underprotected. For me, like I said, I feel that spiritual protection is the ground of being. Spiritual, not energetic, is the ground of being. But I do feel vulnerable. And so I think it is normal, you know, as normal goes. But as normal goes, you know, there's nothing is really normal. But let's say it's the norm to feel vulnerable. It's human to feel vulnerable. But what I would say is the way that I manage it is by having, for me personally, having a daily routine, both in my lifestyle, in the foods that I choose, and as well as in what I would call my energetic and spiritual practice is really important. If I, which happens, of course, if something doesn't, you know, I'm not getting to what I want to get to for my own state of balance, yeah, I can feel vulnerable. My mind will go there. My mortal mind will go there.
What? Perfect. That was the perfect note to end this conversation on. Laura, thank you so much. You pinpointed for all of us, highlighted for all of us, that we are all human. We all have a layer of vulnerability. We all have practices that take us to a safer place. Hopefully our viewers have heard more practices that they can integrate into their own lives. Spiritual, energetic protection, they are not the same. However, people do change them without realizing that they are not the same. So I think for person, it's really important for you to discover what your spiritual practice is, and then to witness, observe, as our panelists have said, what your energetic practice is and how the two can harmonize and balance with each other to bring you into a more balanced state so that you can move along successfully in whatever you choose to do. So I'm Sue Rumack. I'm a life coach, empath trainer. We have Laura Carter with us. We have, where are we? Linda Grundy Barrett. We have Tina Hull and Ruth Boydell. Our conversation is all about spiritual success, spiritual protection, success in your life. And I'd like to thank Sacred You for hosting this wonderful panel. Ladies, thank you so much for sharing your vulnerability, skills, for your wisdom, for your energetic selves. Thank you. Sophia,
And
so do you have anything that you would like to say
yes,
at this point?
yes, thank you. I'd like to thank you truly for facilitating. I love your panels that you facilitate. There's such wonderful discussions. So really thank you. And of course, thank everyone else for joining us today, and thank Angel for coming on and helping as well. It's been a great appreciation. And for everyone who is watching this video on the replay, if you've got any questions, any comments, put them in the comments and we will certainly get them to all our presenters. Of course, all the links are below, so if you can also reach out and contact everyone if you wish, which I thoroughly do encourage you to. Coming up next week, our next panel discussion is the search for purpose. That is next Tuesday evening, Australian Eastern Standard Time. I believe it's Monday of course, in the Northern Hemisphere. And for anyone who wants to know more about sacredyou.love, which is our website for our sacred community, or Linda's Tribe, the healing soul tarot and healing hypnosis, and Ruth's tribe, the Afterlife tribe, and Sue's soon to come tribe, do click on the links. And of course, you can join us now just for $1 Australian. Try everything out for 3 weeks. Join Linda's tribe, join Ruth's tribe, Sue's tribe, all our other about 30 other special interest tribes. And then after that, it's just 15 Australian dollars a month. Become part of our foundation. Really, really nice to have people at the beginning as part of our foundation. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, beautiful women. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for making it possible.
Thank you.
And ladies, thank you for bringing everything you brought this evening, my morning.